Morning, all! Thanks for the comments yesterday. Loads of great comments around the distance discussion, and I think the report is kind of doing what it was set out to do, certainly in my circles, getting people to have educated, data-driven kind of looks at what is actually going on rather than nothing. It feels like media hype, for want of a better word, but I see it as such negativity. I'm not quite sure what they're hyping up. Certainly not their audiences, because often the mainstream media are losing audiences on their main platforms. So it just makes me wonder, why don't they just try something a bit different? Today's daily vlog is actually going to come to you from a question I had on Twitter about drive for show, putt for dough comments. Let me just find it. So it's from Michael Vine. Hey Mark, on the golf distance debate, I'd love to see a daily vlog on does drive for show, putt for dough, saying ring true in the amateur game. For the pros, the driver is the winning margin, but is that the same for amateurs? Or is the winning margin in putting, I think he's meant to put as well. He's just put well. Considerably less spelling mistakes than lots of my posts though. So we're going to go for that today. I think it's an interesting debate, and I think it's one that gets a little confused, even though the message is very clear in lots of ways. Well, we're going to talk about it. Spend the day having a little chat like we normally do. Upsetting this person, upsetting that person, but at the same time, hopefully making a lot of you understand and learn more about your game so we can all get a little better. Yes, please. Heading to Torquay Golf Club. We have some testing to do. That looks interesting, Dan. What have you got there, bro? I've got you a little present. Oh, that was a toey one. Oh, going a little left. Drive for show, putt for dough I'm talking about today, Dan.
Oh, tell me about it. So,
cliche, not a cliche. Obviously, I mean, it's already proven that long drive assists you to get lower. It's a proven fact that the top guys are getting massive advantages from hitting the ball longer than, say, the guys who don't hit it as far nowadays. The other question is, I guess, about what difference does that make to the amateurs?
I still think it's a huge part of it. I mean, I know you talk about the amateur side, but you think about Tiger Woods' days.
Yeah.
Think about when Phil Mickelson was peaking, and even this last week when he was all over the place. Wasn't he?
Yeah.
So I didn't see a lot of this golf last week with the in Mexico, but all I saw were the highlights of Phil Mickelson chipping out of trees and then holing putts to save the day, should we say?
Yeah.
So I think it's a massive part of amateur game as well.
What is long driving?
Not necessarily long driving, but holing more putts. And I get that when people come to me for lessons, they always just turn up with drivers.
Yeah.
And actually, what they need to be focusing on is certainly the putting side and the short game side of it, because that's the bit that scores.
See, I would disagree with you there, while at the same time agreeing, which I'll come to on point 2, because Dan is touching on the second point I'm going to make today. I see the biggest holes are actually around the 200, 220 yard approach shots, where if you think about the average amateur, they're hopeless. Yeah. If you look at the distance report that I talked about yesterday, they're having to hit 3-woods into tiny greens. You think of the greens here, how small they are, and they're 200 yards out. They're hitting 3-woods and hybrids into them, where obviously, if you get Rory McIlroy here, he's in a 6 or 7 iron. So if they want to improve driver, yes, and long drive, which then obviously makes them not have to have a 200 yard shot into these small greens, would make a huge difference. The bigger question, which I think you're touching on, which we'll come to in part 2, is it actually even close to possible for them fixing that, where they maybe can fix the other bits quicker? So we'll come to that bit, because that's part 2. But drive for show, putt for dough is a complete cliche. It's proven. So you could take any golfer, take any of your members, get them to hit their standard drive, walk them on 50 yards, Me and Matt did it as a test in Spain, and it absolutely transformed our scores into what I could totally understand why the tour players just breeze around these courses at 1 or 2 under par. Because the par 5s that we were playing, that me and Matt are struggling to fly the lake to get on in 2, like it's a joke, we're going for it for fun. We were hitting, like, I was hitting rinky into one of them that I was trying to hit a 3-wood into. I think he was hitting a 6-iron into one of them. So it's a proven fact that that is a complete cliche, and if you could wave a magic wand today, I'd give everyone the ability to carry it 275. Yeah. And even when we walked them forwards offline, because you're only hitting 9-irons and wedges and 6-irons, like we know, you can manipulate them onto the green a bit easier than what you could ever do with like a 3-wood.
But on the same scale, does it not depend on the golf course that they're playing?
Yeah,
because
is
this part 2, is it?
You're right, which is we're going to get on to in part 2. Because if you think about the length of your course,
and where I've just been to Catalonia, there's massive difference.
There are different skills required. It can nullify certain
skills.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
But don't wreck my video in 5 seconds. Right, we're at Dawlish Warren now. It's looking blooming lovely. Drive for show, putt for dough. Think about it this way. If you are someone who struggles with putting or around the green, not always, but sometimes there can be some very easy fixes on the green for students. Fixes that are easier to get a grip of than sometimes their tee shots are. So I often think, if there's something that's relatively easy to fix or stands out that's a problem, maybe you're driving or you're putting, or if we take it a bit further out and think about, say, my chipping, me improving this part of my game is not easier, but it's something I can do more in the time I have. It's more built around what I can put into the game. I can't go as easily to the gym. I'm going to do something around the TPI screening I had when I was with Titleist, which you'll see in some future videos, but there's something I find much harder to kind of get inspired to do where my chipping. I quite enjoy doing it. It needs improving. So I'm also working in my fun factor and the fact that I can see such an immediate improvement if I put some time to this. So yes, if I could wave a magic wand, you would all hit it 300 yards and be relatively accurate, and you all would get better, because proximity to the hole is going to be, so how close you hit your second shot is going to be so determined from what you've got going in. If I can get you hitting 9-irons into a green instead of hybrids and 3-woods, it's a good chance you're going to shoot lower. But they're massive, massive gains that some people just haven't got the time or the energy, and to be honest with you, the skill set to try and do. So I think, even though I 100% agree drive for show, putt for dough is a complete cliche, and more of you should be focusing on some different parts of your game around driving the kind of that 200-yard approach shots. How many of you have the time, the skill set, the ability to change them? Shouldn't take away from how much you're still thinking about your short game and how much you're still thinking about how you can improve your putting or your chipping or your bunker play. Shots can still be won there, and I think that message gets a little blurred in what I agree with, kind of just the moral message. Trouble with the moral message is we all shouldn't smoke, but we do. I shouldn't eat so much sugar, but I like it, and I probably should exercise more, but I don't. Little story for you. I was lucky enough to speak to a guy who works with Marines. He works helping them with dietary and physical training. And we were talking about the best drink to keep you hydrated, because this is something he had done a study on. His study showed, so we could agree that water was maybe the best liquid that kept the soldiers hydrated on tours in these ridiculously hot countries and places, needing to keep hydrated, otherwise it seriously affects their health, plus their ability to perform under pressure. But what he found is if he put water in the packs of the soldiers, and they didn't like, all the Marines, and they didn't like the taste of water, and as they were in the desert it got warm through the day, so warm water tastes horrible, doesn't it? So they weren't drinking it, and then they were getting dehydrated, even though they had the best dehydration liquid in their packs. So he actually came to the conclusion, which I think is relevant to what we're talking about today with what you practice and how you can fix, and if you've got the desires to. He worked out that the soldier or the Marines stayed more hydrated if you gave them a drink they liked to drink, because the idea was staying staying hydrated is drinking little and often, so taking little sips but kind of on a frequent basis. So if you put a sugary drink in there and they like the taste of it, they would drink more often, so they would stay hydrated. And even to the extreme of some soldiers, he worked out that if you put a beer in there, they would drink that more, and even though that actually acts as a dehydratant in the long run, it was keeping them hydrated on the tour because they just kept sipping. And I think that relates to what we're talking about. If you're not going to practice and you find it hard to get that desire to get to the gym, improve your technique with your driver, those kind of ideas, let's work on the putt for dough, and if we shave a few shots off, that's just a win, isn't it? Interesting, fun little story. I like that story. Right, last point. Your yardage of golf course that you play will make a huge difference in how this plays out. So I think about it in reference to when I played against Lee Westwood and Andy Sullivan. Played against Lee Westwood twice. Once on a members length course, and yes, he had the advantage where there were par 4s that he could drive and I couldn't, and the match was like 2-1 or 3-2 or something he won. I think it was 2-1, I can't remember now. Obviously we're mucking around and he's got many more gears. At no point am I saying I'm as good as Lee Westwood at all, but the game was close. Apart from those bits, they were the defining factors, but because it was a members course, it played me much more into the game. Then when we got to Close House, so the same venue, but we got on the championship course where they played the British Masters last year, his advantage was so much clearer to see. There was a par 4, 480 yards uphill, I think it was. I hit a rinky-dinks into it. Come on! He hit an 8-iron. That was a massive kind of, not shock because I understood that's how they play, but it was like, wow, yeah, that makes such a massive difference. He had a very simple birdie putt where I was really, I made a good par off my rinky in the end. So you playing your member style courses, so compared to what you're seeing the PGA or the European Tour guys and girls playing, distance makes the massive difference out there, and it would make a massive difference on the shorter courses, but it's also a bit of a leveler. Think about it as well in my game. I'd rather hit my driver than I would a 3-wood. I feel straighter with my driver than my 3-wood, so actually if you gave me more distance, so I had the club down off tees, I reckon I might be worse. And it's a similar idea. Oh, little fin. Chipping slowly, getting there. It's a similar idea for you guys and girls at home playing your short courses. I see it with my parents, I've seen it all through my amateur life. Club members doing quite well. Even low handicap club members playing a 4 or 5 doing quite well around their course that they're used to, and it kind of fits their game with the distance. We then go and play like Saunton, which you might have seen us play a championship course in North Devon. We're going to be filming around there again soon. It's good. And the noticeable difference of that course in its distance really shows those people up to not have the weapons. So yes, I think for the amateur game, there's more of a discussion to be had. And I think we need to be careful about the message in relationship to some of the other points I've made today around what you enjoy practicing, what you want out of the game, those kind of ideas. But everything equal, if you've got the energy, you feel you've got the ability to make those changes, making those changes in your driver to your 200-yard shots as well into greens definitely could have a bigger measurable difference than chipping and putting. But please, please, please don't let that message cloud the fact that you need to be keeping them tight, working on them, improving them. There's loads of shots that can be saved around putting, chipping, those kind of ideas for more amateurs than they really believe. Dan's point at the start of the video, the amateur just brings the driver for the lesson. I get why he's saying that. It's not always the quick fix or the fix that will help everyone, and sometimes, like I said really in the points today, it is what needs to be fixed, but for some it's just too hard to manage that fix where you can manage other shots, fix them, and then go back to the bigger problem. At the end of the day, if I can make you 1 shot better, I'm happy. If I can make you 5 shots better, I'm really happy. But if we go after the 5 shots and it's too hard and you don't get better, then I'm not doing my job as a coach. Post comments down below. Let me know what you think. I think this is an interesting discussion. Can't wait to hear what you've all got to say. See you all tomorrow. Have a good evening. Do you like my new jumper? Got a new delivery of Under Armour clothes. Oh, get it raw. Oh, spinny. Oh, and I'm very excited to be working closer with the Putt out guys. Quite relevant to today's video because I still think we can all fix that part as well.